Salve discipuli. All right, on Monday this week, I did a new format called Artwork Analysis, where I presented you with some art, and then you just had to say what you saw, bringing in background information if you have it, guessing if you have no idea, or otherwise just describing what you're seeing. So one of the biggest things about mythology is how it's in art. It's in art from almost every single time period of Western civilization. That is, we have art from the ancient world, which is a couple thousand years in the Dark Ages, the Middle Ages, the Renaissance, and in the modern period, classical art has always been part of the artwork of Western civilization. So learning more about the Greek gods and their stories can help you understand all kinds of art. So the first piece I gave you, which we'll zoom in a little bit here, and this one is a little blurry, sorry about that. So first, it appears to be a man. Again, stating the obvious is not a bad thing here, just saying what you're seeing here. He appears to have a beard, long hair, not super long hair, but not short hair either. The beard kind of makes him look a little older, but not so old that he's weak. You know, he looks strong, he's muscular. He is holding a long staff. He has what looks like a toga draped around him. He has a disc of some sort, or a bowl, or a cup, or a plate, or something like that in his hand. And there's a bird. A majestic looking bird. You know, a bird that looks strong. A bird that is looking off into the distance. So if you had to make a conclusion about who this is, you'd say, well, it looks like a man in a position of power, maybe a king. The staff oftentimes is a symbol of power or being a king. The eagle, looks like an eagle, doesn't it? Could be another bird, maybe you guess a different bird. And in the end, if you thought this was Zeus, you were correct. All right, next one. Okay. Now first, if you ever see the information at the bottom of the slide actually telling you who the artist is, what the time period is, don't be afraid to use that. If I really cared to delete that, I would go ahead and crop it out. Okay, so what did you see in this one? Well, there are women. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, at least 6 women. They appear to be in some sort of temple. You can tell that from the columns and the other parts of a classical Greek or Roman temple. There's a fire, and they're all around the fire. And if you had zoomed in, and remember when you have a chance to look at the pictures in a slideshow, you can always zoom in. Also, if in a Google form, you can make things bigger or smaller, or in any, if you're ever in your browser, holding down Control and hitting plus. And if you're on an Apple, that would be Command plus or Apple plus, or Control minus on an Apple Command minus will make it bigger, make it smaller. That works in any browser, like on any website. That works in your Google form, that works in Google Docs, that works pretty much anything online. So if you had zoomed in, you might have seen that it says Vesta right there. So these women look like they're priestesses because they have things covering their head. You might have noticed that they've got some of them have flowers wrapped around their head. You'll notice that there's a lot of flowers, some plates. And if you deduce that this was a temple and these are priestesses, that's right. These are the priestesses. And if you recognize the importance of the fire that they're tending, look how much attention they're paying to the fire. If you figured out that these are the priestesses of Vesta in the Temple of Rome, you are absolutely correct. But again, if you didn't know all that stuff, all I was asking you to do was describe what's in the picture. Okay. So, you probably noticed that there's a male figure with the lack of the beard or any facial hair whatsoever. You might have said that this is a young man. Not really a boy, maybe a teenager, an adolescent, maybe a young adult. You probably notice the way he's posing, looking off into the distance, almost like he's a male model. Notice the hair. Notice the clothing draped around him. And if you guessed that this was some sort of musical instrument, you got that right. You probably noticed that his figure, like, he's not humongously muscular, but he's fit. He's in good shape. This is, of course, what the ancients would have thought to be attractive. Whether you think it's attractive or not is, of course, your own opinion. And then based on the musical instrument, the lack of the beard, the attractiveness, but yet not hulking muscular masculinity, if you guessed this was Apollo, you're correct. This is Apollo. All right. Okay, and this one. Probably one of the first things you noticed is the helmet, because the helmet takes up more than half of the picture. That is, we have a man here, a male figure. The helmet is shiny. It has feathers on it. There's a large plume on it. So if you said something about war or battle or fighting, that's definitely along the right lines. As helmets like this were featured frequently in the ancient world, especially for leaders. So maybe you thought he's a general or a hero of some sort. You might have noticed this, which kind of looks like it would be a spear in his hand. And then, judging by what he's wearing, and if you actually recognize this style of art, this is a Roman wall painting. You might be familiar with Roman wall paintings from Pompeii or other ancient sites that were covered in ash. And you might have said, like, oh, that's like a wall painting at Pompeii. And you might have deduced that this is the Roman god Mars, the god of war, or Ares in Greek. That's who this is. This is Mars. All right. On this one, you probably noticed that there is a female figure. You probably said that there is a deer in the picture, or if you didn't see that it's a deer, some sort of hoofed animal. As you can see, the hoofs are pretty prominent. Notice the antlers on the animal as well. Notice that she is holding on to the antlers. That it definitely appears that the deer is with her. That is, it does not appear that she is hunting this particular deer. It looks like she is protecting this particular deer. But she does have arrows. You might have noticed that she appears to be lacking her bow. It might have been that the bow had been in her hand. We don't know. You probably noticed that she is not wearing a full-length dress, that it just comes down to knee height, and that it's cinched around the waist. You might have noticed that her hair is up. It's not hanging down. She does appear to have something on her head, maybe a visor, maybe a crown. And then you probably noticed the quiver of arrows. A quiver is the thing that holds the arrows. And then she's about to pull an arrow out. You might have also noticed that this looks like it's in a museum, because there are other works of art on pedestals. This is a museum. This is the famous museum in Paris called the Louvre. And if you figured out that this is, or if you guessed that this is the Roman goddess Diana, also known as the Greek goddess Artemis, you would be correct.